say is go ahead and have our convention in February. You know, they cannot contest who we pick.
I guess, and then the other option that I have on this, on A1 or 2, is that rather than having our convention in February and picking the final selection, that our candidates are vetted by the executive committee, and so we only have one candidate up for every office, possibly, during the filing week, and then we can go ahead and have a formal convention anytime later where we're either voting on up or down, yes to that candidate or none of the above.
Anybody can file the political practice pledge, but they can't be on the ballot without our certificate, right?
That is correct. In order to, what you have to have is a party certificate issued during the candidate filing period, which says that you've paid the filing fees, you've filled out a political practices pledge, and you've satisfied any other requirements the political party has imposed. So if we want to impose some sort of oath or pledge or condition, we can do so. So we can say, you cannot file a political practices pledge with our party unless you've been vetted by the executive committee. I think that would be within our legal right to do so. Or what we have in essence been doing in the past is saying you cannot file a political practices pledge unless you've already been nominated by a party convention. That's essentially what we've been doing. The legislators tell me that that's what they intended for us to do all along, was to have a convention later and just declare our potential candidates during the filing week. Perhaps I'll postpone any formal vote of decision on this particular one because I think much of the discussion is focusing on whether or not we choose candidates early, what do we do next? So let's move on here and think about a couple of different possibilities. In section B, I talked about we could have a two-tier filing fee structure, where if you're either nominated by a convention or nominated by the executive committee, then just by paying a $50 filing fee, say, you're issued your candidate certificate, and you can file your political practices pledge. On the other hand, if you're just walking up on the day of the candidate filing week, out of the blue, we don't know who you are, yes, you can put your name down for consideration by the Libertarian Party, but it'll cost you $1,000 or $10,000. So we could have a two-tier structure like that would tend to keep people out who weren't already pre-approved. Being that, I think there's some drawbacks to that approach. It's clubbish and exclusionary in some sense. We might want to welcome people who we've never heard of before to the party.
And sometimes you never know. Sometimes there could be some folks who've been hearing some murmurings, thinking about running maybe under another party or something, and have decided, no, these aren't the people I want to be with, and jump ship. There's somebody that we would definitely welcome on board.
I think the option one there is also could possibly open you up to discriminating practices lawsuit. If you're treating people differently when they're coming in.
Yeah. Private party should be able to discriminate.
You say it's $1,000, but file early and save $950. Right?
Well, so those are two ways that we could restrict access to our ballot. Is either by having a two-tier filing fee structure, or simply say that we won't issue candidate certificates unless you've been pre-approved, which would be consistent with the earlier discussion of, we'll pick our candidates first and then let them file political practices first.
Well, in Minnesota, we had a situation where we had a guy who was not a libertarian, who used to go down and register as a libertarian candidate. We were unable to prevent that, and he took stands in the newspapers, which we didn't want to be identified with. And I think any procedure you adopt here has got to have a vote by convention or by executive committee to put somebody on as the libertarian candidate.
Yes.
Yes.
And if we pick option A1, then that pretty much renders B moot, doesn't it?
Yes, and in some sense, these A1 and A2, or B1 and B2 are
One or the other.
one or the other. Yeah, there are some that are mutually inconsistent. But I threw them up here just to get a feel for what people thought of these ideas about how we could proceed.
Well, I think in the last nominating convention, we did that. We nominated people that weren't even there. And I think that's one of the few note of votes I've ever made, is I didn't want to vote for someone that wasn't even there, I didn't even know. So keep that in mind for the next nominating committee. I'm in favor of A1.
By the way, it's kind of interesting, during the testimony in the lawsuit, the Secretary of State's office contended that the early filing date wasn't a hindrance to us at all, because look, they were able to nominate people who weren't even there in absentia, and so it was a fine thing for them. So funny how